Thank you very much. Let's talk more about this. Michael McFaul, a former U.S. ambassador to Russia, is an NBC News Russian affairs analyst. He is with us now along with Jeremy Bash, our national security analyst. Gentlemen, good morning to both of you. And Michael, I want to start with you. And even as I do, I think you and Jeremy slightly disagree on this question. You think this is a pretty aggressive move on the part of the Russians, don't you?
Well, I do. One, because I think it's unjustified. We didn't meddle in their elections, so why are our diplomats being punished? And number two, it's not symmetric to what we did. The Obama administration kicked out 35 diplomats, allegedly those that were actually working as intelligence officers. This reduction is over 700. Now, most of those will be Russian employees, but that's a drastic cut. That's the embassy I ran. It's going to be much harder to do our business in Russia as a result of this.
Jeremy, you feel this is a little more boilerplate, that there still may be some kind of positive relationship he had between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump or President Trump, and this is kind of Trump or Putin saying business is business?
Yeah, Trump was forced to sign this bill, and Putin knows it. So I think, Matt, that the bromance will continue. Look, Russia is getting a lot of return on its investment. It is getting effectively what it wants in Syria. We've agreed to scrap a program that would have tried to push Assad out of the way. And is also getting what it wants vis-a-vis America and NATO. Our president's response to defending NATO has been pretty tepid, and Russia likes that.
Michael, you've been obviously a chief diplomat in Russia. If you were to expel 755 diplomats and staff, how does that impact the way the U.S. does business with Russia diplomatically?
Well, it's huge. Actually, when I was ambassador, we had to close down the U.S. Agency for International Development. That was only 70 people, but that was very, very difficult. And I want to remind you, it hurts Russians, too. Remember, you go to the embassy to get your visa. That's the biggest section, consular affairs. It's going to take a lot longer now for Russians to get their visas to come to the United States. So this has a boomerang effect that hurts Russians as well.
All right, let me go to you, Jeremy, now in North Korea, another crisis facing this White House. President-elect Trump quoted or famously said, North Korea just stated that it's in the final stages of developing a nuclear weapon capable of reaching parts of the U.S. It won't happen. We know how that worked out. What is President Trump learning about dealing with the North Koreans? 14
missile tests this year. They have cleared most of the technical hurdles needed to build and field an ICBM that could go downtown Seattle, Chicago, Denver, maybe even Boston and New York. They are in the final sprint to having that capability. And the last piece would be to miniaturize their nuclear warhead and be able to put it atop that ICBM.
President Trump said, and this is his quote, the Obama administration policy of strategic has come to an end. Please explain to me what the difference is between the Obama administration's approach and the Trump administration's approach to North Korea is.
Well, I'm not sure we know what the Trump administration's approach is yet, Hoda, but the Trump administration has before it, probably in meetings this week in the Situation Room, a very stark choice, either to accept a nuclear-armed North Korea that can hit the United States or to take preemptive military action. And I suspect, given what they did in Syria, that they will look potentially for a symbolic strike, a surgical strike on one facility in North Korea to send a signal.
All right, Michael McFaul, we thank you. Jeremy, stick around. We want your take on something else. This is the shakeup at the White House. The president's new chief of staff, retired General John Kelly, being sworn in today, and he faces a tough task, transforming a West Wing that has seen its share of turmoil in recent weeks. NBC national correspondent Peter Alexander is at the White House with more on this. Hi, Peter.
Hey, Matt, good morning to you. General Kelly will get right to work this morning, first getting sworn in, then attending his first cabinet meeting as chief of staff. Can he bring order and stability? Former White House advisors say General Kelly may provide discipline, but the real question is whether President Trump accepts it.
This morning, a changing of the guard. General John Kelly, the president's new chief of staff, beginning what may be one of his most daunting missions yet, bringing order to the chaotic Trump White House.
If we can have protocol, pecking order, discipline, and a chief of staff that empowers the staff to succeed, I know that General Kelly has done that on the battlefield.
But lately, the West Wing has been its own battlefield. Kelly's challenge to be the president's gatekeeper and to limit clashes between competing factions, including chief strategist Steve Bannon and communications director Anthony Scaramucci. New questions this morning over who Scaramucci will report to.
Has Scaramucci, who said that he reports directly to the president, has Scaramucci, have you now been told you report to Kelly?
I will speak with General Kelly and the president about that, as I'm sure Anthony Scaramucci will.
Meantime, one White House official with direct knowledge tells NBC News Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner supported Reince Priebus's departure and are eager to follow Kelly's lead. From the president's former campaign aide, this piece of advice.
Anybody who thinks they're going to change Donald Trump doesn't know Donald Trump.
A point punctuated this weekend, the president first taunting his own party, tweeting that after their failed effort to repeal Obamacare, Republican senators look like fools, later rooting them on. Don't give up. The world is watching. Also this morning, the president's taking heat for these recent remarks to America's police.
I said, please don't be too nice.
Appearing to endorse rougher treatment of suspects.
Like when you guys put somebody in the car and you're protecting their head, you know, the way you put their hand over. Like, don't hit their head, and they've just killed somebody, don't hit their head. I said, you can take the hand away, okay?
The backlash immediate. The top police chiefs group condemning the comments, underscoring that law enforcement officers are trained to treat all individuals with dignity and respect. The NYPD commissioner blasting the president's suggestion as irresponsible and unprofessional.
The White House has not commented. Online, the president's supporters are defending the remarks as a joke. And not to be lost today, this morning's cabinet meeting, likely with Scaramucci, Bannon, and Kushner all in attendance, will also be the first time that we'll see President Trump in a room with his Attorney General Jeff Sessions since he began publicly disparaging him. Matt, Hoda, back to you.
Hi, Peter Alexander. Thank you very much. Jeremy, come on back in here for a second. You worked with General John Kelly. You know the guy. You know his personality. All this talk about backstabbing and infighting in the West Wing at the White House, does he have the personality that's going to accept that or deal with it? How's he going to handle it?
No, he won't tolerate that. I know John very well. First, we should say, Matt, and his wife Karen are the real deal. They are patriots. They, as you know, have given the ultimate sacrifice. They lost their son Robert, killed in action in Afghanistan November 9th, 2010. They know the meaning of public service. I think John's doing his job for the right reasons. He'll be able to succeed if, and this is a colossal if the president gives him the authority to end the chaos and dysfunction in presidential decision-making. That's unclear whether the president will do that.
And if the president listens to him.
That's right. And the president has to take his advice, and he has to make clear that John is in charge of the entire staff, that there aren't just pop-up walk-in privileges, and people need to go through the chain of the command. This Marine understands the chain of command.
All right. Jeremy.